I love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert that you are. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. I'm your host, Carden. And this week I have a special guest, Jen Anderson, who is a leadership career strategist. Jen, welcome to my show.
Hey, Ann, thank you so much.
I am excited to interview Jen because we both come from, we're maybe an hour apart, an hour away from each other, I think. And I didn't know Jen before I met her on LinkedIn. The power of LinkedIn, I always say. Oh. So yeah, to get to meet people locally, even though you haven't never met them out and about, is really one of the wonderful things about social media. So Jen, I'm excited because you have been at this coaching thing for a lot of years. And I know you have a backstory. I'm going to let you share that with my audience, but I'm just super excited to have you here. So thank you again for being my guest.
Well, thank you. It's so fun to catch up with you. So this will be great.
So tell everyone, how did you get into being a leadership career strategist?
Oh, great question. So when I reflect back, so I started my company in 2009. And prior to that, I had been in the recruiting realm for about 11 years. And I had dealt with many hundreds of managers, helping them navigate how can we help you hire the right person, right? Let's get the right person into the right seat. And as I was helping them and navigating through that, I definitely noticed this interesting thing would happen where we would place a fabulous candidate, right? Think of like a project manager, right? Or a software architect. These are people who are intelligent. They have strong careers, great talents, always wonderful things. They would go into this new company and the managers were not doing a fabulous job of loving on them. In an HR appropriate way, of course, right? But they were not doing the things to help that person to continue to succeed and grow and to develop in the company. And so as I noticed this and I started paying attention to it, I just thought, I need to make sure that I'm helping not only that new person that we just placed and got them into that job, helping them succeed, but also helping their managers to do a better job. And I'm not just talking about onboarding, the typical week one stuff of, hey, here's the benefits and there's the bathroom, not that kind of stuff, right? More of, okay, what are you doing to really make sure you're connected with that person and helping them to connect with the vision and the goals and all of those things? So I started talking with my corporate clients and the managers and talking to them about this stuff. And so I would meet with them off hours when I wasn't doing, running all the recruiting stuff. And little by little, I just really recognized and just followed that strong prompting to move into helping them with all of this strategy around the career development for the leader and for their employees. So that's how it got started. And so it's been fun. And then now, if anybody says, hey, can you help with recruiting? I'm like, nope, but I know some recruiters who can help you.
You know what I love, and I really want to point this out because there were two things. First of all, that work found you. And I found that with all of my businesses, it found me. Yeah. Only the first business I remember going out and looking for where's that opportunity, but everything else from there on really found me. And so the other thing that I want to point out is the fact that you recognized it. You saw that gap, you saw that opportunity, and you seized that opportunity. And how many opportunities come our way and people don't see them? They're not even aware of them. They're all around us, right?
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Absolutely. No, that's so good. And it's oh, it's a bit nail biting, right?
Yes.
What am I doing? So I stepped away from working full-time corporate to go do my own thing.
That can be scary.
It can be. It really can. When you're not looking at paid holidays and vacation and 401k and benefits and all that jazz, but I just knew it was the right thing. And so here I am all these many years later. And I look at how fun it has been to do this, and how rewarding in other really unique ways too.
Yes, I love that. And it is always what's on the other side of that. And, you talk about vacations. Now you can take them if you want to, right?
Right.
I love it. You don't have to wait for someone to tell you you can have a vacation. You get to, that is one of the beautiful things about entrepreneurship. When you have that success, now you get to create your own schedule and you get to do things that you really get to value the things that are the most important, and your business can come behind that. And I think you don't get that opportunity always in a job or in a career.
Yeah. And it's something I think that a lot of people don't think that they can ask for, right? Or companies don't think to offer it either.
Right.
That's a whole nother conversation around. Oh my goodness,
another
right?
podcast.
Yeah. Another one was line them up, man. But there's a lot of people who don't think that they can do that, right? So they feel stuck and then they don't ask, right? And so then, I always say, don't ask, you don't get.
Right.
So, so that's why I don't mind when my 7-year-old asks me for things, because I'm like, okay, good. But I don't always give her the stuff, right? But I still want her to keep asking.
Right,
So
right, absolutely.
Keep doing that, because for the rest of your life, that is actually a really good talent. I just need to teach her a little bit of the finesse and the savvy how to do it, But but the point is yes, there's a lot of that strife, that internal strife that can happen, and so and it was kind of funny when you were just making that comment around, now I get to do and pick my vacation time, right? So, early on though, I didn't have that. I was working a gajillion hours. It takes a while.
Yes, it takes a while.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. But now there's a big chunk of time that I do take off. I'm at the point now that most of July and most of December, I'm not working. And it's, and it's nice that I have a team of people who carry through and they do the things and I don't have to be around. That was not the case when I started my company in 2009.
Right. That's a really good thing for people to know too. When you are in startup mode, you are putting everything you have into getting that business up and going. I think where a lot of people maybe make a mistake, and this is more on the business side, but they don't think bigger picture. And so a lot of times they'll just keep all the money, or they'll spend all the money they make versus putting back into their business, which really slows their growth. So it is nice when you can get to a place where, like you and I both, we have a team of people that are still doing things for us, even if we're taking time off. And so just a little bit of business stuff in there for you to think about if you're watching this. But okay, so let's talk about Jen and let's talk about what she does. So first of all, Jen, who do you work with? Who are your very best clients and the people that you love working with?
Right. Hands down, I love the nerds. Oh, Anne.
Nerds, okay.
The nerds. Oh my goodness, they are my people. I grew up in a family of engineers, so I just get it, right? And so who I support are really the tech leaders, to help them to become the tech leader that everyone wants to work for. It's so fun to work with the CTO, take their team of leaders that are reporting to them, and to help them to have that success, to build those great careers. But in turn, they're also building great careers for the people that work for them too, right? So not just the CTO, but all the other people, when we kind of think down the org chart, right? And so it's all the leadership. We offer coaching and training. We have group in person as well as online trainings. And so it's a lot of fun. So by nature of that, then we're working with people really all around the world too, because of how international tech teams are.
Yes, I love it. That's awesome. So let's talk about some of the ways that you work with them and what you really help them do. So one of the things you had shared with me is you said, there's just crappy leadership out there. Let's just say it like it is, right? So, So how do you help them get beyond being a crappy leader?
That's so awesome. I love this. Because I'm
keep it real.
Yeah, I know. Keeping it real, people. Keeping it real for sure. Well, plus, I mean, even, when I when I post stuff out there about, hey, you're a terrible manager and here's why, so the different things that I'm sharing out there on social media. And listen, here's the reason why I know is because I'm talking to their employees. I know that they're not happy, right? And so I'm getting the inside scoop on things. And, and in the end, a lot of the core work that we're doing to help these managers is, first of all, acknowledging that they are a unique individual person. And I think sometimes, especially when I'm working with people in tech, they can be such linear thinkers. It's always check, right? Which is fabulous. We need them to do that, right? So as we're the tech, even just think how we're using tech to do this interview right now. We need them to do the things. And so, but along the way, there is a bit of forgetting about the humanness of business and the people that they're working with. And so then it becomes, okay, 1 + 1 = 2. Sure, give you that, right? But 1 + 1 does not always equal 2 when it comes to a couple of people getting together and working together, right? So there's these dynamics because they're bringing to the table their past, their experience. Going back to what I just said a moment ago about the international teams. I mean, good heavens, you take somebody who grew up in the States and their experiences, they could be very different just based off of what state you grew up in, and then you take that and then maybe you add in somebody who's from the UK or from India or South Africa or something.
Right.
And the dynamics of that 1 + 1, it's an unfathomable equation, quite honestly. And so that's why when we're looking at our work that we're doing with the training and the coaching, it is all about what makes you unique as a leader. Let's identify it first, and then let's leverage that. That becomes really easy for an individual person to see it and to feel it. Right. And that's a funny thing because a lot of these tech folks, they're
not really super emotional, are they?
No, yeah, totally. Or if they are, it's like way off. It's like, okay, where are you on the spectrum here? Okay, what's going on? And so, and what I mean by spectrum, I'm talking like the autism spectrum. There are a lot of people who come with those
in tech. There are absolutely. They actually excel in tech because they can be so focused and
Exactly. Yeah. That's why they do fabulously. Right. So it's a little bit of, okay, that's the dynamics of you're working within. Let's help you to succeed in that area. And so that's why I try to remove any of that cookie cutter stuff and instead help them to be able to navigate that in an organic way. Yes, of course, we provide them with specific, hey, in these kind of scenarios, do this, right? But it's so important that they embrace truly who they are first. So that's
so great. And they are nothing against tech. I have a son who is a CTO, so I understand, but nothing against tech, but often, like you said, they're very hard sometimes to really to coach up and really help them step into that leadership role. And like you said, in a way that there's a human factor and there's a human dynamic. And you're right, adding in all the different cultures, all the different countries that they work with all over the world, it just adds a whole nother element to what they're trying to do that a lot of people don't have to deal with in leadership. So, so good. So good. All right. So let's talk about one of the things you said that I absolutely love, and I just might have to steal this phrase, is winning the day. I want to talk about that because that was something that just really jumped out at me when you were talking about how you help them. So can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So with winning the day, I think if we were just to take a pause and step back for a second, I think people are pretty darn hard on themselves and we end up being really hard on each other. And so there's this element of why are we doing that, right? And, in essence, it's like, why are we being so mean to ourselves and being mean, to other people? When I'm saying mean, I'm saying it a bit tongue in cheek, right? And so, but the point is that sometimes we're so focused on go, we forget what have been our wins. What are we doing? What has been a success? And so that's a bit of that element of forgetting about the humanity of the work that we're in, right? And so we're just go, check the things off the list, stay on that linear line, go, right?
Right.
And yet that we're the people doing the things along the way. Even when you look like in tech, and they have all this stuff with AI, which stands for artificial intelligence, or ML, machine learning, right? And so, yeah, we can use tech to help us, but it's still, let's not forget about the people. And so acknowledging, but with winning the day is, what's a win? How are we succeeding? What is going well, right? And so I kind of like the analogy of you're marching up a mountain, right? And we've got our big, when we get to the top, we've got our sights on where we're going, but it's really hard, right? You're slogging through, more mud on your boots. And it's like, stop, time out, pause, time out, stop, turn. How far have you come, right? That's an example of the day too. Let's look and see how far, because sometimes people are like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. That's last week, whatever, we're just kind of plugging along. That exhausts people, and you're not going to win the day because people are going to get exhausted and they will leave.
I love that you're talking about this. And I see this a lot in management and leadership. They're always just so profit driven, goal driven, and they don't stop and recognize the people that have brought them to the place that they are. They don't stop and appreciate. They don't stop and value. Have you read the book by Dan Sullivan, The Gap and the Gain?
I have not, no.
Okay, great book. I think I brought this up on another podcast, but so important that people are not always so focused on the goal, like you said, that they actually don't even appreciate the process and the progress that they've made. And that's exactly what you're talking about. So to get people to take a look at that and step back and see all of that, because you're never going to have joy in what you're doing if you don't learn to appreciate that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So true. And it doesn't have to be the big monstrous, la, 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 look at this new software that we do. It's like, no, like, how about, we were just having a good time and we actually had lunch together. Like that could be a thing with all these remote workforces,
Right.
We built relationships together, anyhow, there's so many ways to acknowledge the win, right?
Yes.
And that's going to help us winning the day.
So true. And one of the things too that when you were talking about, developing leaders and getting over crappy leadership, we know people leave leaders, they leave companies. They don't typically leave their job. They take their skills and their knowledge and their experience, and they just go elsewhere doing the same thing, hoping that the next company is going to appreciate them and treat them right. And so if people don't start understanding this and they don't start developing the skills that are required in the marketplace today and in business today, they are going to struggle as a company long term.
Yeah. Yep, so they absolutely will. Absolutely.
All right. So what are some of the other things that you help people do? You talked a little bit about personal brand. Of course, I help people with their personal brand. And so I love this topic, but you talk about this from a leadership standpoint. So do you care to share a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. I feel your personal brand is the foundation to everything that you are. And once you're clear on your personal brand, then that's going to help direct how you're going to show up as a leader, how you might lead meetings, how you might engage with an employee in a one-on-one meeting, et cetera. Not to mention how you're conducting your life too, right? I mean, your personal brand is really a combination of who you are professionally as well as personally, those two coming together, right? They're not mutually exclusive. And it's always fun to help my clients, because I help them figure out, okay, well, what is your brand, right? Once we get that nailed down.
I was just going to say, how do you define that for people? Because I think people in the tech space would be like, what do you mean by personal brand? We get that as coaches and consultants, but I do not think that they would get that. So how do you define that for them?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I help them understand, listen, your brand is going to be the mark that you make on the world, right? So as you're interacting with people and then they're not in the room, when you're not in the room, what do you want people to say about you when you're not there, right? And so that's really deciding, okay, this is the type of person I want to be, so that me as an individual, I'm making sure to invest in people and help them to understand what it is that I'm all about, who I am, what I stand for. So when I'm not in that room, they understand who I am, right? And that helps get rid of some of those misperceptions. Oh, trust me, Ann, I am all about poking the hornet's nest when it comes to these tech folks. All about it, right? So in fact, I just had a coaching call with somebody earlier today. We just finished 6 months spending time together. He was part of a cohort of tech leaders of company. And he says, Jen, he's like, when we first started talking, said, I wasn't so keen on this whole idea of personal brand. And I mean, this is really funny that we're having this conversation right now, because I literally just talked to him a couple hours ago. And he said, but you know what? It's like, I totally get it. It's like, it completely makes sense. He's like, now I really know what I need to do as I'm stepping forward as a leader. This is bringing me clarity. So when I step into that interview with a candidate next week, and for job title, he's like a senior software guy, right? Like, so he's got a whole, like a director, but all of his people are in the software space. So, those software folks, they got job options people, right? So as a manager who's interviewing candidates, he's not interviewing just them to make sure, are they a good fit technically and culturally? Because rest assured, that candidate on the other side of the table is totally considering whether or not he wants to work with that manager. Right. And so now he feels much more clear. He has a lot more, he's much more courageous about who he is and just letting that shine, right? It's like, hey, this is who I am. And if that resonates with you, come join me, right? And so now he's walking into these interviews feeling a lot. He's not like he's got like this cockiness, right? There's not like this arrogance, right? But it's more, this is who I am. And
it's a confidence. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
I love that. Well, I always say too, your brand is really the perception people have of you. Okay. And what do you want to be known for, and what does that look like? So I love that that's now coming into sort of the leadership role. Yeah. And I don't think it always has in the past. I think it's a relatively new concept, really, for them to build their personal brand. But if you think about it, every single one of us has a personal brand, good or bad. We have one. And you can obviously change that and change that perception and grow and really, elevate that brand. Or like you said, when you're not in the room, what are people saying? But we all have a personal brand, whether you have a job or you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't make or a leader in a company. We all have one.
We all do. Absolutely. I know when I first started talking about personal branding stuff, it goes back to about 2011. And so it's kind of nice to hear more people talking about it now. Right. And so, because it really is, it can take the edge off of that concern and the misperception that we don't need to have for ourselves, nor do we need to have about other people. And you know what, folks, like we've got good work to do in this world, right? And
absolutely.
So let's shed some of this unnecessary weight of expectations and labels, right? Let's get rid of it. But I think as an individual person, it's incumbent upon us, all these leaders, all of us, right, to say, who am I? What do I want my brand to be? And then go be the ambassador for that, right? Champion that.
Yes.
And so then from there, yes, in all of your places and all of your ways of life, great, good. Be that person.
Yes.
Right. And stop playing all that small game, or even it's not even about like, la, 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 look at me, I'm going to be a CTO or whatever. No, it's not just about that.
Right.
And how are you conducting yourself when you walk into the grocery store?
Absolutely. And what do they say? Character is about who you are when no one's looking.
Right. Yes.
So, and that's all part of your personal brand as well. So I love it. The other thing we talked about when we were talking about this show and what we were going to talk about, the topics, you talked about leaning in, and I really love this topic. So let's touch on this a little bit. What do you mean by that? Sure. I think that in this, especially right now in this day and age of quiet quitting, this is quite the little buzz out there, Right. So the new buzzword. Yes, the new buzzword. And so there's an element that as an individual person, are you going to choose to lean into the challenges, lean into the opportunities, right? Or are you going to
lean back away. So if imagine, if we've got a group of us sitting around a table, you can almost visually see it. And, for the listeners, next time you're in a meeting where there's a group of people, even if you're just out to lunch, right? Or, whatever it is, pay attention to see who is literally leaning in, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to see them. They're going to have their elbows up on the table. They're going to be leaning, physically leaning in, you know what I mean? And so, but they tend to be more engaged, right? They tend to be more a part of the conversation versus the people who are leaning back. They might even have their chair pushed away from the table, arms crossed, right?
You can't see us if you're listening to the audio, but we are making gestures here.
Yes, exactly. And so you see this, you can see this happening, and it tells you something about that person. If they're leaning forward, or, again, if they're leaning in, or if they're pulling away from the conversation. And so as a leader, if you're noticing somebody who used to be really engaged and leaning and leaning forward and whatnot, and they start to literally push back away from the table, it's going to tell you in essence, they're starting to quietly quit.
That's so powerful. Wow. What a tip there.
Mm-hmm. So, and then for yourself, if you're the type of person where maybe you have this style of, well, I don't like to lean forward at a table, and might be somebody thinking this, like, I don't like that kind of stuff. I just kind of want to sit back and quietly observe. Well, people are making thoughts about you, right? Or coming up there, right? They're having a perception of you that you're not interested, that you don't want to be here, that this isn't valuable to you. And so this is like, again, okay, God bless the nerds. I just love them, right? So a lot of them, they just pay attention to your body language. And so if you're doing these things, you just have to understand that the mind is wired. Like, this is beyond any of us, right? This is literally the science of our brains. Your brain is looking at somebody who's leaning back, and your brain is saying, that person doesn't want to be here. They don't want to be here. Then I don't want to listen to them. I don't care what they have to say. Right? So
good.
So then as a leader, or even if you're an individual contributor at a company, right? You look at this stuff and just take stock of yourself. Pay attention. Am I literally leaning in? Am I showing that I want to be here, that I'm excited about this project?
That I care, right?
I care, right? And so those kind of signals, as much as you think, well, come on, give me a break. That's not what people, this is not the world according to Jen, right? This is science.
Right.
Right? The brain of other people, that's what they're picking up on. And if that's what you want to be known for, is somebody who's being lazy, lackadaisical, you're not excited, that you're not leaning in, then there you go, my friend. That's your brand. And is that what you're going to be okay with?
I love too that you're talking about this, because we also do so much virtually now. Right. And this is really important for people to understand too. When you're on a virtual call or on video, these gestures and these things that you're doing. I mean, if I was leaning back in my chair like this, again, you can't see us if you're listening to the audio version, but Jen, you would just think I wasn't that interested in doing this podcast with you.
Right.
And how would that, number one, what perception would you have of me? And number two, how would that make you feel? And this is what people are dealing with now in the virtual world, as well as obviously live. I just have to share a funny story here. I remember speaking at a chamber event one time. And of course, a chamber is a mixed bag of people, right? So there were a lot of people there that were not my ideal clients. And I remember the fire chief was there, and he could have cared less that I was talking about business, marketing, and sales. And he was leaning back in his chair to the point he fell asleep. Now, I laugh about it now, but at the time, it really made me feel horrible. Like I was just a terrible speaker, but everyone else, other people were taking notes. But that image always comes to my mind, even all of these years later. I think about that, and I can still remember that fire chief, and because it was so burned into my head and it was so obvious. But that is what people are doing without realizing it, right?
Yes.
So crazy story there. But,
and then the rest of it is, if it was so not relevant to him, why was he in the meeting? And there's
Well, it was a chamber luncheon. And so you do kind of get the hospital administrators and the other people. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It didn't make him look really good either. So
no, that's exactly where I was going with it, right?
Yeah.
Is that other people saw him fall asleep too, right? And so like, okay, figure out so that for yourself, like if he's choosing to be there, then lean in is what I would say to that guy.
I love that.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, dude, I was sitting next to him, I probably would have poked him. Because I told you at the beginning, I'm all about poking hornet's nest.
You would have poked that hornet's nest.
I would have. Absolutely. I would have poked him like, hi, like, do you want to wake up? Or do you step outside? Like, if this is
I could have thrown the microphone at him, but hey, I didn't. I refrained.
For sure. But that's another thing to think about too, is like, if your peers are doing that, you might want to sideline them and, offline, just be like, dude, like you totally fell asleep in that meeting.
Yeah.
Come on,
not cool. Just not cool.
Not cool. Not cool at all. Think about that, right? And so that's giving a signal to the rest of us. And so, yes, being a firefighter, all stuff, it's very, very valuable. I know my husband used to be a firefighter, right? Like we get that stuff, but it's more, okay, what's that grander perception?
Right.
Now, here you are. I don't know how long ago you had that experience.
Oh, it was like 13 years ago. So,
right.
And it's still ingrained in my brain. Every time I think about speaking, I think about that experience. So I love it. I think these are just such great things for people to realize. And again, in a virtual world, or even if you're physically live with people, these are such powerful, great strategies and tips that you really need to embrace, because things are changing in the workforce. Things have changed.
Yes.
And, in the marketplace and business and organizations, they talk about the culture of organizations. Those things are not going away anytime soon. And now it is right now that at the time that we're recording this, it is an employee's world. It is not an employer's world. And so employers have to step up, and they can't just, coast along anymore and expect for people to be so grateful for their job, because everyone needs employees. So you have to step up.
Right. No, it's absolutely true. And the individuals, right? The employees step up, right? Let your brand shine, right?
Yes.
Be that great person. Leaders step up, do that. And then I think what's happening too is that there's this element of, oh, okay. Then it's, it's like that old adage of when the water comes into the bay, all of the ships rise.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like everybody can, be elevated. Everybody can be doing great. So, right. So then everybody can be, in essence, leaning in and having these successful experiences.
And being happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think that, we're in a world today where people truly want to be fulfilled and happy in what they are doing, whether that's their business or their career. There is no more accepting just for a paycheck. People just aren't, especially the younger generation, they just aren't thinking that way anymore. It's those old days that are gone, that although the golden handcuffs are still a real thing, aren't they?
Sure they are.
In the corporate space. But I do think that people will take their golden handcuffs elsewhere if they don't feel fulfilled. So Jen, this has just been great. I would love to know how people can find you or reach out to you. And of course, we'll put all of your links and everything with the show notes. I found Jen on LinkedIn, so I know she's very active on LinkedIn. But I know you have a YouTube channel and you have other ways that people can find you too, Jen. Do you want to share those?
Yeah, I think the easiest is just go to my website, which is movingforwardsolutions.com. And from there, there'll be links to the other things as well. So movingforwardsolutions.com.
Wonderful. Okay. Parting words of wisdom. What's your final say here that you want to share?
Oh my goodness. That's like picking one favorite child of all the boats.
I know. It's like,
I'm like one little nugget. Oh boy. And, one thing that this comes from a very kind of a deep, kind of seated, almost like a spiritual place, is I often like to ask people, when you get to the end of your life, what do you want to be known for? And so get clear about that, and then back it up to today and keep that in your sights. And I think that there's a lot of people who are really, quite honestly, lazy, that they don't want to think about that, right? I'm not talking about facing down your mortality. I mean, listen, I'm a colon cancer survivor. I've been there. Okay. So this isn't what this is about. What I'm talking about is saying, okay, let's just say I get 30 more years to be on this planet, right? Okay. If I'm going to back it up to today, how do I want to live my life so that I feel good about when I'm all done, right?
Right.
And so that would be my final little nugget for people is get clear about that, which means turn off the stinking television and spend some time thinking about it, right? Get clear about that.
I love it.
Go live to that.
So good. So good. And so true as well. So Jen, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with me and being my guest and sharing all of your wisdom. And I love what you're doing. I even love that you're working in the tech space because there's such a need there. There's a need in every industry, but I really do think that because they're so analytical and just the way their brain works, this is just a side that they don't typically develop unless someone comes in to help them develop it. So I think it's really awesome what you're doing. So thank you.
Absolutely. Like I said, I love me some nerds.
And I actually love that. Is that in your marketing, Jen? I don't know. We're going to have to talk about that.
I need to put it in there, but
you do. Yes. You should. This has been great. So, all right, everyone, connect with Jen. And if you need some help scaling your business into multiple 6 and 7 figures, and you want to do it with ultra high-end clients, then make sure you book a call with me and let's talk about your opportunity to do that. I'm Ann Carden, my guest, Jen Anderson, and thank you again. And you all have an amazing day and God bless you. I'll see you next week. If you've enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to go check out a free training that I have at expertinu.us. It is a training that I have on how you can get ultra premium dream clients, scale your business, get more freedom, and really simplify your business and multiply your money. So go check that out. And again, that is expertinu.us. I want to thank you for being here with me this week. I hope you found massive value. Please always leave a comment, feedback, or a question. We check them all. And I want you to go rock your business and make sure you join us again next week. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.